Okay, welcome, Leah Yoon. I'll let you give your own kind of bio. And as I said, Lillian Lee will be with us shortly. And this is Design the Future for Master Human Centered Innovation, brought to us by IBM. I think you guys all know who that is, right? All right, go on.
Yeah, thank you so much, Thelma. Hi, everyone, and happy Saturday. As Thelma said, welcome to our first hack pre-workshop. As Thelma said, I am Leah Yoon, and I am a user experience strategist at IBM. Again, hopefully everyone's heard of IBM before. I am also joined by another one of my lovely colleagues. As mentioned, Lillian is on her way, but also our colleague Haley, who is our technology sales lead for the state of Hawaii. In today's session, we have an overarching goal to introduce you all to the philosophy of design thinking, and also provide you with some practical tips for you to use as you're building and delivering your code challenge projects this year. So based on the registrations, I saw we have quite a nice mix of participants who are going to be part of the challenge this year and who are here with us today as well. Whether you're from high school and you're just starting to explore tech, to college students who are now building their skills, all the way through to seasoned pros who maybe have already worked on some real world projects already. Additionally, some of you might be more into development, more into product design, and maybe some of you are still figuring that out, and that is totally okay. What we're sharing today is really meant to be helpful to each and every one of you, no matter where you are in your journeys. And hopefully, what you learn in today's session is helpful even beyond your experience in this year's Code Challenge. We also want to show you all how user-centered design can be used in a variety of different professional roles, depending on what you all do and what you may be hoping to do in the future. So with that said, here's how we're going to use the next 60 to 90 minutes. We have a couple of interactive exercises to help wake us up this Saturday morning and introduce us to the philosophy of design thinking. We're going to talk about why user-centered design is a critical part of the product development process. And most importantly, as mentioned, I'm going to be sharing a few practical tips for all of you to keep in your back pocket throughout the course of the code challenge. Towards the end, once Leanne is able to join us, I'm going to pass the mic to her and she'll be sharing more about IBM's mission and the resources that we provide to upskill both young and seasoned professionals in important topics relevant to AI, cybersecurity, and so on for everyone here's continued learning after this session as well. I hope we have a great session together today. I am also depending on all of you to be brave and get what you need out of today's session. I'm hoping to keep it light and fun, especially since it's Saturday. So I'd love to see engagement with, for example, Zoom reactions. Feel free to give a thumbs up when you learn something that you feel would be useful to you now or later down the line. Feel free to raise your hand over Zoom to participate in interactive sessions. You could do all of this by hitting at the bottom of your screen the react button, and then you can choose the reaction you'd like. And last but not least, please feel free to use our Slack channel or our Zoom chat to ask questions and share thoughts as we go along. So I can't stress it enough how important it is for everyone to participate. I'll say from personal experience as well, I've always been somewhat introverted and worried to ask questions or say something wrong during high school and college, and therefore I didn't raise my hand and participate as much as I wanted to. That's something I regret, and I don't want anyone here to feel like that. So let's just remember during today's session, we're all here to learn, we're here to have fun. If you have a question, chances are somebody else probably has the same question. There are no dumb questions and no right or wrong answers, okay? Feel free to join that Slack channel if you haven't already, S_IBM. We're going to be monitoring it throughout. As mentioned, I realize we have probably a very diverse group here. I'm curious starting out to know if there's anyone here who has heard of user-centered design, user experience, HCI, or the like. Feel free to raise your hand if you've maybe heard of any of these terms
or a thumb up.
yeah, or thumbs up. Ming, love it. Anyone else? It's okay if not. All right, Instructor John, great. And of the people, Kayla has it, and totally fine. I'm honored to be, your introduction into user-centered design. It's an honor. And of the two, Ming, Instructor John, who have heard of user-centered design or UX before, do you mind sharing, are either of you working in a UX role or profession at the moment, or you've just heard of it and are familiar?
Hi, this is Ming here. I haven't worked on any UX UX role. But I am a data engineer, and I'm actually taking a master in computer science online. So I think I heard about these terms, but I haven't have much experience working with it.
Yeah, hey, that's amazing. And thank you so much for sharing. Congratulations on your master's, by the way. Hopefully, at some point during your master's program, you'll also get to take like an HCI class, human computer interaction, where some of what you'll learn today will be relevant to you. So that's really exciting. Thank you so much. And I saw instructor John as well, has not worked in UX before, but has heard of it. Excellent. So, with that said, let's keep going. So the question of what is user-centered design, I feel like is a good starting point, right? And the answer might seem simple. To me, it's actually kind of a tough question. And not because the answer is unclear per se, but because user experience and user-centered design encompasses so much. So rather than starting by giving you all just like a textbook definition of user-centered design and user experience, I actually want to begin with a few quick activities using some everyday objects in hopes that they help us wrap our minds around what user-centered design really means and do so in a way that's memorable to everyone here. So, cueing your bravery, you'll see here on the screen a question. The question says, which of these products would you prefer to use? You'll see A and B. A is a toilet paper hat, and B is pocket tissues. Now, again, no right or wrong answers, but I'd love to hear from all of you which you think you would prefer to use. Feel free to think about it for a minute, and then you can respond over Slack in our Slack channel or over chat. Just put A, B in the chat. Excellent. I'm seeing a few responses already. All right, so we've got a good mix. We've got some A's, we've got some B's, and that's great because that makes it so we can have a discussion about this. So I'd like to start with A. For those of you who responded A, would one of you mind unmuting and sharing with us why you might want to use A? Again, no right or wrong answers, whatever comes to your mind. See, Danica responded A and Ming responded A. Do either of you want to share with us why you chose A?
Yeah, I can share. I think I choose A mostly because it seems like a cool thing to try out. That I think every day I seem to be using pocket tissues or in some way I've used it quite often, but I have never tried A, so I would like to. I would probably prefer to use it.
Yeah, I love it. It's always worth a try, right? Thank you so much, Ming. I appreciate your bravery and unmuting yourself there. Okay. And then what about B? It looked like a majority of people said B. Would one of you be open to unmuting and share with us why you chose B? Again, no right or wrong answers, just discussion.
Hi, I'm
Hi.
Kyla.
Hi,
I'm
Kyla.
sorry if my audio is really bad. I have people mowing the grass outside, but
Can
I
hear you.
picked B because it's a lot more conventional, and I think I wouldn't want people to know that I have Kleenex on the top of my head, and that's why I didn't pick A. And I think that B would just be more portable and effective because I could put it in multiple places and anywhere that I would go. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Kyla. That's amazing. And again, there are no right or wrong answers here. Obviously, these two products exist, right? So there's probably someone who would want to use both of these products. And I mean, like we said, a lot of people do use pocket tissues every day. But there are people who might use the toilet paper hat too, especially like Ming said, it might be cool to try out. So great. That's our first exercise. Let's move on to our second exercise here. And there are 3 exercises total. So this is 2 of 3. Okay, so another question that you see on the screen here. The question is, can you rate this item out of 10 for ease of use? Where 1 represents not at all easy to use and 10 represents extremely easy to use. Now, if you didn't see here under the caption, this is a washing machine dial. So keep that in mind for context. Feel free to take a second and think about it, and then put a number in the chat as to what you'd rate this on user experience. Okay, 4, 5, 5, 7, 6. We've got a range 3, 1, 4. Excellent. All right, and I'm not necessarily keeping track of making sure everybody voted, but please vote if you didn't. So I'd love to hear from a few people why you voted or why you shared the number that you did. Could we have maybe a couple of volunteers who haven't yet volunteered? I would love to hear from some new people.
I can jump in. I
Yeah.
put 1. I actually was going to comment, hey, why isn't there a 0 option? Because I will be honest, I don't really know what any of these symbols mean. I'd have to Google them all.
Yeah, what do these symbols mean? Might have to Google. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I feel like I could tell from the voice. Haley, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Haley. Love the bravery. Who else? Come on, guys, be brave.
Wait, oh shoot, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi.
I put 7 because, well, I mean, I do laundry quite a bit, but I feel like it's pretty convenient to have each like article of clothing as a symbol. So like pants, I know which one to put on for pants, for shirts, ironing, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I put it as 7 because it can always be, I guess, more descriptive, or like the tree. I don't know what that means. So some of the symbols don't make sense, but
Yeah. Like you said, what is that
That's cotton. That's a cotton ball.
tree?
okay.
Oh, is it? Belva.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, I'm curious, is this a dryer or a washer? That's what I don't, it's not clear to me, but
Actually, you're right. It could be a dryer. My understanding is that this is a washing machine, though.
well, they do have washer dryers now. So it
That's
might be
true.
that might be what it actually is from. So
Yeah, touche.
sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, this is great, right? This is why we're doing this exercise, is to discuss. And I see Instructor John too. Thank you so much. You said 5. It seems easy to use, but maybe there are just too many options here. Anyone else? We have one more little, I'll call them stickies that are open. All right, in that case, maybe I'll share my own thoughts if that's okay. Actually, I didn't think about what I'd give it. Maybe I'd give it, let's see, I see 1, 7, 5. I'll give it maybe a 4, being a little bit biased. But a 4 because, again, like I think, as we mentioned, there are a lot of different symbols. I noticed that just in general, when I look at washing machines, a lot of them have text too. So I can say, oh, I want a quick wash, or oh, I want a normal wash. So maybe lack of text. But at the same time, I do love that number one, there are little dots under each symbol. So you can see where exactly you have to move the, what do you call that? Like the nozzle to. So you can see tick marks, and then also on the nozzle, you can see that there's a line indicating that's what's used to, I guess, determine which setting you want to. So I like that as well. Okay, excellent. We're filling these out nicely. One more activity. Hopefully this is fun too. So the last question is a little bit more open-ended. And again, this might be a little bit abstract, but I'm gonna bring it all together in a minute here. So stay with me. The last question is, can you think of a positive or negative experience that you recently had with a product, application, or service? If it helps, I suggest maybe walking through your day yesterday or your day today and thinking about everything that you've interfaced with. It could be an electronic, it could be your phone, it could be a TV, a computer. It could be an application. So any apps that you use on your phone, on your computer, on your TV. It could be an object, like I have a cup and a lid here. I have a desk that I've interacted with, a pen. It could be anything like that. It could even be a service. So if you went to a store yesterday, if you went to a restaurant, retrace your day yesterday and some of the steps you took and things that you interacted with. Let me know. Can you think of a positive, like something that was delightful or something that was frustrating to you with anything you've interacted with? Feel free to take a minute to think about it, and then let's get a couple of volunteers. Feel free to unmute and let me know what you think.
I can get the ball rolling and share one with you guys.
Please.
So I bought a device, and I have this happen all the time, and the electronic shows up, and the how to set it up little card they give you is either not very clear. They try to use pictures, and in this particular case, the thing didn't work, and I didn't know that so I kept unplugging and plugging it, thinking it was me. They ended up having to replace it, and the only way I could understand that it was just not working was I had to call customer support. And I think that that's a weird an outlier. I understand that, but the fact that it should have been super easy to set up. I had a device like this before. I was just upgrading, and the fact that it was a little unclear how their little how the setup card should have been was not clear as it could have been. So.
Absolutely. Can I ask you as well, Thelma, if you had to estimate, how long would you say that it took you from first looking at that manual all the way through to something's wrong, let me call customer service? Do you remember how long that might have taken?
It took about 15 minutes because I kept on plugging and unplugging it, and thinking maybe I hadn't pushed the thing in properly, and blah blah blah. So and then with the customer support, when we figured out it was bad, that wasn't. So the whole thing took almost over 30 minutes, which is again a real bad use of time, right? So anyway, I just thought that was a good one because it just happened. Literally just happened yesterday. So
wow. See, it worked. Retrace your steps yesterday, all the things that you touched, all the things that you interacted with. Thank you, Thelma. Who else?
An exam.
Hi.
So, um, like I have Apple products, so like a MacBook and a phone, and I don't know, I really like AirDrop. It's like really useful. Instead of having to email myself photos or files that I like scanned with my phone, I can just easily AirDrop it, and it's so much more convenient.
Yeah, thank you so much. And do you mind saying your name? I didn't catch it.
Oh, Kalina,
Kalina. Thank you so much.
Calina.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I love this one too. So you said you really love AirDrop rather than having to email yourself photos and files all the time. You're able to, share really quickly, which is great. And I'm also curious to know, what does that mean for you? Like, if you're able to do things really quickly, how does that make you feel about the products that you're using and the brand?
I guess it just makes me want to use it more. Like I'm more willing to buy it again. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your bravery. And let's hear from one more person. Anyone who hasn't shared yet, who would like to share here?
Somebody's put one in the chat for you.
Oh yeah.
Lillian did.
Hi.
Lillian says, during my travels, found some remote controls in the hotel rooms were super difficult to use. So remote controls, difficult to use. You had to push the channel up and down buttons. Didn't change anything. Spent 5 minutes. And then it turned out you had to first push dish in order for anything for channel buttons to work. Gosh.
Yeah, and every hotel has a different remote, so you gotta have to spend like 15 minutes trying to figure out the remote.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I also kind of picked up on your message here that you found some remote controls in the hotel room. It almost sounds like there were maybe multiple controllers. And did you have to sort of figure out which one to use?
No, yeah, that's a good question. So in my current hotel, I have two remotes, one for the living room and one for the bedroom. And we figured out after 30 minutes that one remote only works for turning on the TV. And then the other one can control the channels. So it's ridiculously difficult. I don't understand why remote controls are so hard to use.
Yeah, actually, I agree with you. I have two remotes as well. One of them I use to turn on the TV, and one I use to do everything else. But interestingly, the second remote can turn off the TV, it just can't turn it on. So that's very interesting. These are all really great examples. And I'd love to share one more example of something that isn't an electronic either, but it's more so an experience. I'm sure most people here are tuning in from Hawaii, but if anyone is familiar with the fast food brand called In-N-Out, has anyone heard of In-N-Out Burger?
Yep.
It's really good. And one thing that I love about In-N-Out, well, actually, two things I love about In-N-Out. Number one that I love is when I'm pulling up, there's always a long line, right? Because everybody loves In-N-Out. Most people do. And I love the fact that they have someone who's outside and is taking your order. So rather than thinking when I pull up, oh my gosh, there are like 20 cars in front of me that haven't ordered, they are getting through so quickly. And even though I may not be getting my food as fast, even though I think I probably would be, even though I'm not getting my food as fast necessarily, the perception that I'm able to get through the process of submitting my order quickly makes me feel good. And in addition to that, if anybody has eaten at In-N-Out and eats in your car, a lot of people eat in their car, right? They actually offer lap mats. I have never gotten a lap mat from any other like drive-through that I've been through. So that was a pleasant experience for me as well. Maybe In-N-Out should sponsor me one day. So In-N-Out has people who take orders outside, and they also have lap mats. Okay, perfect. Thank you, everyone. Look, we had quite a few stickies. We filled them all in. Thank you so much for your participation. And so now I'm going to take it upon myself to really bring this back together and share how this connects to user experience. So now we spend some time thinking about everyday products and experiences, thinking about which we might want to use, which we might not want to use, what our experiences are like with products that we're interfacing with every single day. At this point, we really started to tap into what user experience and user-centered design is really about. So as said by Don Norman, Jakob Nielsen, who are two pioneers in the field of user experience, user experience encompasses all aspects of the end user's interaction with a company, its services and products. So let me break down the part of their definition that says all aspects. I'm going to break it down into 3 elements, and then hopefully you'll see how it ties into the exercises that we just did. So user-centered design starts with what we create. In other words, are we building something that actually solves a real need? And just as we discussed earlier, is the way that we are building to solution that need the best way to solve that need? Sure, there are many ways, but is it the best way to solve that need? Because let's be honest, as users, we don't really care about products themselves, right? We care about whether those products we're using help us get something done, solve a problem, and make our lives easier. Next is how we create the product or application or service. So once we've identified the right solution, are we designing that solution in a way that's intuitive, accessible, and easy to use? And this is where the term usability comes in. It's really the experience of interacting with the product itself. Does it feel natural? Does it guide us? Or does it get in our way and cause us frustration? And finally, user experience is about how we deliver the product, application, or service. So this is really about other touch points that really shape the way that we perceive the brand or the product, app, or service. And hence why the sort of experience around everything, the touch points, is part of the experience too, even if it's not necessarily us touching the solution and using it. Any other touch points like, sales, customer service, anything like that, all of those things still have an impression on us, so we consider it to be part of the experience. Bonus points. Does anyone know what this picture at the bottom is portraying? Does anybody know what these products are?
They look like ornaments to me.
Ornaments, Anybody else? It's a specific brand. Yes!
Jelly cat.
Kyla, great job. Yeah, these are jelly cats. So I actually have a bunch of jelly cats on my desk right now. I like the foodie ones. But for anyone, actually, Kyla, let me ask you a question first before I say anything about this. Do you remember how you first heard about jelly cats? It's okay if not. Do you remember how you first learned about jelly cats, Kyla?
Looks like her microphone might not be working.
Uh-oh. Feel free to use the
I'm
chat.
sorry.
Oh,
There you go.
hi. You can hear me.
All I was saying was that I think my first experience of learning about Jellycats was from other users reviewing them and talking about them.
Yeah, they're very popular lately, especially among, people who like to decorate their bags, right? They have like bag charms and they have really cute plushies. I can tell you how I found out about Jellycats was through TikTok and Instagram, social media. So interestingly, the sort of flagship location for Jellycats, for anyone who isn't familiar, you might want to search it up later if you haven't heard of it. But there's a flagship location in, I believe, London. And their store is basically set up like a bakery or a restaurant. It's super cute. And basically, what they do is they package the food or they package the Jellycats plushies as if they're actual food. So, for example, you see at the bottom right, there's a stack of pancakes. Obviously, it's a plushie, right? But they have a fake little griddle. So they'll like throw the pancakes on the griddle and like make sounds that make it sound like the pancakes are cooking. And they do the same thing with burgers. If you get like a little pastry, they'll pretend to, put whipped cream on it for you. And for that reason, I think they have gotten so popular and well known. And the reason I say that is because, again, how we deliver a product to our users affects their perception of the brand. And I feel like Jellycat is like a really great example of this, because people want to experience what they do at the flagship. And so for that reason, a lot of people have a really positive perception of the brand. Okay, so hopefully this slide here kind of ties together the exercises that we just did a couple of minutes ago. And kind of on the topic of Jellycats, I feel like that's a good segue here. So I'm sure many of you have noticed, especially in more recent years, that a lot of physical products, apps, and services that we receive are paying a lot more attention to user experience, whether it is about how easy and simple things are to use, exciting new features like we're talking about AirDrop, or the way that these brands market and deliver these offerings. And I think there's been a clear shift towards creating experiences that delight our end users and make their lives easier. That's because companies that innovate, the ones that really lead their industries, are all practicing design thinking. It has been a foundational approach across industries for decades, but it's proven to be really transformational in more recent years. And IBM is no different. We really pride ourselves in making empathy for our end users the foundation of everything that we do. And all bias aside, I think that our core principles at IBM represent really well the mindset that innovators have to put ourselves in order to be user-centric and provide great user experiences. So those principles are, number one, a focus on user outcomes. We have to always ask ourselves the question, who are we designing for? And what is it that those end users really need to make their lives easier and to make them successful? Number two is restless reinvention. The process of creating products and iterating on them never ends. Everything is a prototype, because if we, develop a product and we release it, we don't touch it for a couple of years, we're behind in the industry, right? The market is always evolving. End users' expectations and needs are always evolving and changing. And therefore, when we innovate, we are always having to stay ahead of the market's expectations, but use the latest and greatest technology to do so in the best way. And third is diverse, empowered teams. So asking ourselves the question, do we have the right mix of makers? And when we talk about diversity, we mean having different people in the room who have different life experiences, different education, different professional experiences, different ideas, so that everyone can come together, provide a perspective, and then agree together on what is the best solution that we can create to satisfy our end users' needs. So these are the principles. And interestingly enough, if you take a look at these 3 principles, you might notice that there's no need to explicitly be a designer, someone who's, designing a front-end interface, or someone who's dedicated to user experience to do design thinking. Everyone who builds or makes decisions that affect end users downstream should practice design thinking. So whether you're a developer, whether you are in product, whether you're in marketing, whether you're an executive at a company, everybody should be practicing design thinking. Now that said, because we have a lot of people in the same room, everybody's got different opinions, we have constraints and timelines and trade-offs that we have to think about. Sometimes it can be easy for teams to lose sight of the end user as they're building and making decisions, which is why we do have dedicated user experience advocates and practitioners, such as myself at IBM and within the industry. All right, and so up until now, we've been talking about user experience in the context of everyday objects. Again, the reason we do that, or that I wanted to do that, is to make the concept of user-centered design a bit more tangible, something that we can all relate to with, AirDrop, our remotes, anything like that. But while products like tissues, washing machines, phones, etc., are important to us, right? They're not really essential. So once we shift the lens of user-centered design to products, apps, and services that take a part in making the world run smoother, making the world run safer and more inclusive, we start to really see that design thinking isn't just a nice to have, it's not an add-on, not an afterthought. It's fundamental to the process of product development from the beginning. So here's the best way that I can explain why user-centered design is so important. It is important because if we can use design thinking to help end users maximize the value of the solutions we're creating through the technology, it's going to increase the likelihood that they'll be successful in what they're trying to accomplish. Again, this is with everyday products, but to use essential services as an example, this means end users successfully dispatching emergency services, using biotechnology tools for health diagnostics, treatment, research, developing safe city infrastructure, maintaining transportation systems safely, etc. And then as a result of making those end users successful, not only do we make the world go around, we're also fostering usage, trust, loyalty, business growth, and more. And I'd be remiss not to mention as well that another outcome we should really recognize and pay attention to is ethics, especially when we're thinking about how to design responsible interactions with AI too. So design thinking and user-centered design is fundamental. It is non-negotiable. It's very, very important for all roles. All right, and now that we've covered what user-centered design is, what it means to be user-centric and why it's important, I'm gonna pause here and see if anyone has any questions before we get into how to apply these practices. I wanna make sure we're all on the same page before I share how to do this. Any questions that I didn't answer? Oh, and Jellycat's in New York too. I love that. I hope it's the same experience that they have in London. Let me also open the Slack here too. Okay, no questions in Slack. Any questions from anyone here about what UX and design thinking, user-centered design is, why it's important, anything like that? Questions? All
Actually,
right,
I have a quick question.
please.
Yeah.
Hi,
Uh,
Lily.
So I'm wondering, I've worked with you before.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, do you study design in school, or what is well, the education background? Maybe I missed the beginning of the introduction, but
No, not at
is there a
all.
special degree in design that you study?
That's a great question. Honestly, I didn't talk about that, so I'm glad that you asked.
Okay.
To be honest with you, it's been a while since I've graduated college. But I will say that when I was going to school, there was no formal degree in like user experience. They have some similar degrees like design interaction, UX design. But for the most part, I don't necessarily think, from my experience and the people that I've interacted with who are dedicated to user experience roles, a lot of times they either come from a design background or they come from something quite different. So in my case, I studied cognitive science and statistics and computer science as well at UCLA. When I was studying computer science, I actually participated in a class called HCI, Human Computer Interaction. And that was really my introduction to user experience. In addition, when we get into like psychology and cognitive science, understanding the way that people think, there are some classes where we understand behavior and understanding the way that humans work, heuristics. So to answer your question, there may be a degree nowadays other than just like, and I'm talking about undergrad for the most part. In grad school, yeah, like you can have a master's of HCI or what have you. But at least for undergrad, I think it's really design or some adjacent fields that probably have a few courses available on, user experience. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, because I think design is so important in our company, right? So, and I know when I went to school a long time ago, and I know that you need to go into a PhD in order to get user experience degree or something like that.
Yeah, which is so interesting because, like I think a lot of people who do computer science, that should be part of the curriculum. There should be a course that's offered in HCI. I was very lucky at UCLA. The timing just worked, and we were doing a pilot program on HCI, which is why I got to do the class. But it's definitely very important. And I mean, for that reason, like you said, it's not always offered, especially in undergrad courses. IBM has, and other companies too in the industry have so many resources that people can use so that they can understand how design thinking fits into actual like field work that we do, right? That's another thing about college is sometimes it doesn't teach us exactly how to do the jobs that we end up in. But IBM has just so many courses, and we'll talk about that soon too. Any other questions that I can answer just to make sure everybody's on the same page about, what user-centered design is and why it's important? All right, let's keep going. And then feel free to keep, if you have questions at any point, pop them in the chat. I'll try to answer them as we go, but if not, have some time kind of set aside at the end so that we can take a few minutes and go through them. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to share what I believe to be a good 5-step process on how to easily apply UX practices to the product development cycle. And this is going to be relevant to all of you as you go through the coding challenge this year. So step one in design thinking is to identify and explore an opportunity. In this case, an opportunity, typically referred to as a business opportunity, represents a real-world problem or an unmet user need that, if solved, will result in measurable outcomes such as time saved, money saved, satisfaction increased, and so on. As you could probably guess, this is a critical step that should be taken before innovating. So before we start building things out, we need to make sure we understand what is it that we're trying to build and why and for whom. And so in the case of your coding challenge, this step is to some degree already taken care of, and the result is within the context of the challenges that you chose. But that said, you'll still want to ensure that you all understand the challenge and opportunity so that you can design and deliver your solution effectively. So here are some questions that you and your teams, when you get started, I encourage you to ask yourselves to make sure that you really do understand the opportunity. They're here. What's not working well for our users today? If we solve this problem, what will the result be? Who's affected by this problem, and how exactly do they experience this problem? So number two, after you understand the opportunity, the next step is understanding the end user and why the need is important to them and the goals that they have for themselves, whether it's for themselves personally or themselves professionally, etc. And doing so will help us make sure that our solution is relevant and impactful to them. So in design thinking, we have a few golden rules. One of the golden rules is to remember that we as innovators are not our end users, and therefore we also are not able to represent our end users. So of course, in real life, ideally, we would be able to speak with actual end users when we're thinking about an opportunity and a solution, speak with them, interview them, observe them in their roles. But since that's not as realistic for the code challenge, I understand. The next best and leaner method would be to, number one, do some desk research to define the top 1 to 3 personas that represent the roles of your end users. In other words, the 1 to 3 people who would be most affected by the challenge that you have chosen and the solution that you're trying to build. Then number two, do desk research on each of those personas to understand their unique needs. So again, here are some questions at the bottom that you can keep in mind. You'll want to make sure you have clear answers to these questions through doing your quick research. So what is the end user trying to achieve in their role and why? How do these challenges and needs stand in the way of them achieving their goals? And what outcomes do the end user hope to see if we resolve their need? Now, you might be thinking that knowing who we're building for is pretty obviously important, but keep in mind that not truly understanding your end users can actually lead to user experience issues down the road. And I actually want to share an interesting anecdote that I think serves as an example of how end users might surprise us with their behaviors in the way that they use our products, apps, and services if we don't do our due diligence in truly understanding them. So I was recently chatting with a friend who's a design thinking professor in Germany. I asked him to review this tech, and in his lectures, he always uses this anecdote from a study that was done a few years ago at Heathrow Airport in London. So interestingly, the researchers noticed that older travelers used Heathrow's restrooms more than younger travelers. Now, out of consideration for the interesting types of guesses we might get, I'll just ask that you think about this individually. I'll give you a minute to think about why that might be, and then I'm going to tell you what they found. So take a minute, think to yourself, why might it be the case that older travelers use Heathrow's restrooms more than younger travelers? And again, no need to respond in chat. Just think about it for yourselves.
And while we're waiting for that, when you get a minute, could you explain how you would do the desk research?
Yes, good question. So desk research is really just about doing some, in my mind, it's like doing some Google searches. Let's say that you have a challenge, and in the description of the challenge, it'll tell you basically what the problem is that is trying to be solved. From that, you can do a couple of Google searches, like who really experiences this problem? What roles really experience this problem? And from that, you can identify a couple of personas just based on Google searches. And then once you've identified what those personas are, let's say that, I guess to use a very simple example, let's say that you have a challenge about, when people go to the grocery store, they have XYZ issue. Okay, who are the people who are affected? It's everyday people who go to the grocery store, right? Depending on the issue, it might be a certain person who experiences an issue. So you can do a Google search on this particular person and what their role is to understand what are their goals, like why is this an issue for them? So hopefully that helps. Really just comes down to some Google searches.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So now that I've given you all a minute, I'm going to tell you the answer to this interesting study. So I'm not sure if anyone here has been to Heathrow Airport. I have not been, but I heard it's a very large airport. It is one of the airports that, there are millions of people that go through the airport every year, which means there are a lot of people there. Probably a lot of people talking, a lot of noises, some background noises. Maybe people are working a coffee machine, a lot of things going on, right? It turns out that older people were going to the restrooms more because they were able to hear the announcements only in the restrooms, because in the restrooms, there's less going on, but also because of the acoustics in restrooms with like ceramic tiles and toilets and everything, it's actually better for the acoustics in the airport. Whereas in the regular airport, there were issues with the acoustics, so they weren't able to hear the announcements. So that's the reason, sort of the answer to this question, what they found. And what that meant for Heathrow Airport is that they had to install some acoustic ceiling panels all throughout the airport. So if any of you go to Heathrow in the next couple of years, just look up at the ceiling. You'll see some domed ceiling panels for acoustics, and you'll probably see some additional paneling throughout. So that way it's easier for everyone to hear announcements. I mean, honestly, I think if all of us have been to an airport, we know it's kind of hard for everybody to hear, right? So it improves the experience of hearing announcements and controlling some of the other noises for all travelers, but especially the older travelers who had a harder time hearing. So again, just another example of user experience. And again, this was to demonstrate that if we don't take the time or don't have the due diligence to really understand our users, to observe them, to talk to them, sometimes their behaviors in the end are interesting, and they may not use our products and services the way that we intended. Okay, so we'll keep going. Step 3 is when we move from the phase of discovery, discovering an opportunity and the end users, to actually innovating. Now, this is where the magic starts to begin. This is where a diverse group of people with diverse human experiences and ideas come together to define a potential solution. And again, bringing this back to the challenges, this process has already started for you because in your challenges, the general solution has been defined. But that said, what the solution looks like in terms of the user experience is an opportunity for each of you to think through together in your teams. This can be done by pulling together storyboards, end user journeys, wireframes of your solution where you're just drawing it out on paper and so on. The possibilities are endless, which is why I love this space, is because it opens the floor for creativity. But also keep in mind, it might take a few tries with your designs and ideas before you land on the one that's right for your team and your end users. Again, some questions that I recommend you keep in mind here at the bottom. What would most effectively solve this problem and why? How can we approach this challenge in a new or improved way? This is getting into the definition of innovation, something new and improved. And what would make this solution stand out and create lasting impact for our users? So as you go through, keep these questions in mind, and I think you'll be surprised to see where it gets you in the end. Okay, almost there. These next two steps, I believe, will be most important for each of you during this coding challenge. Number 4 of 5 is testing and iterating on your solutions once you've identified what the best solution is for your end users. Again, in the real world, you would ideally be able to meet with your users, do some usability tests and formal design sprints of iterating. But for the sake of time and simplicity for the coding challenge, I'm going to show you how to use what I believe to be the perfect resource in evaluating the usability of a solution without the end user present. So this method is called a heuristic evaluation. It's a way of evaluating a solution against industry standard principles of user experience. I love it because it doesn't take a long time to do, and it's going to help each of you level up your solutions. Keep in mind as well that user experience is worth 5 of your 30 points within this year's grading rubric for your deliverables. So if you want 5 points out of 5 in this section, here's how you're going to be able to get them. You may have remembered that I referenced Nielsen and Norman earlier in the discussion when we were defining what user experience is. Nielsen and Norman, as mentioned, were visionaries in the field of user experience, but even more than that, they helped develop consistent industry standards for user experience. And they also developed some really great resources that are used across the industry to this day. I use them all the time. What you see here on the right of the screen is one of my favorite resources, the top 10 principles of user experience that we use to conduct heuristic evaluations. Then on the left, I have a simple low fidelity screen just for demonstration purposes. It's nothing really, it's just creating a profile. So now my understanding is that you'll each have about 2 minutes. I think it's 2 minutes for the demo portion of your presentations. Now, I could be wrong, but just doing the math in my head, that comes to maybe 3 to 5 unique screens in your solutions, max. Regardless, the reason I say that is because this really shouldn't take long, maybe 10 minutes per screen here. So this is how you can do your heuristic evaluation. To carry it out, you'll want to, number 1, look at the overall flow of your solution. Make sure the flow is simple and efficient so that users don't have to be clicking around too much to get what they need to get done, or potentially get lost. Don't make them work too hard. We have to take care of, everything through the user experience. Don't make them work too hard. Look at your solution overall and make sure that we're not making them work too hard. Then you'll want to evaluate each of your unique screens. So looking a little bit more granularly. For each screen, like we have on the left, go through the 10 principles for each screen and evaluate whether each of these 10 principles or heuristics are satisfied. So I'm just going to do the first 3 really quickly to show you what this could look like. So this first heuristic is, let me get it a little bit bigger on my screen, visibility of system status. So design should keep users informed about what's going on through appropriate, timely feedback. For example, interactive mall maps have to show where people currently are to help give them the context that they need to understand where to go if they're looking for somewhere to go. So in this case, create a profile. I'm sure we've all created a profile before, right? So we see from this, okay, does the user know where they are in the process of creating a new profile? Maybe these gray boxes here are saying, okay, first is personal information. And then we also have a next button. So it's pretty clear to them where they are in the process of creating a profile. Here's what they're doing right now, and there are a couple more steps later on. So I'm going to put a little O here. So you can see this is heuristic 1. A little O represents elements that follow heuristics, and X's are going to represent elements that violate heuristics. So we're good here because we have, personal information and a next button. Okay, next is number 2, match between system and real world. The design should speak the user's language, use words, phrases, concepts that are familiar to the user rather than jargon or something specific to your internal team. So in this case, I can see this does follow heuristics. We have create new profile. Everybody knows what a profile is, right? We have here some descriptions: first name, last name, job title, location. I'd say as well, this follows heuristics because we have first name first and then last name. Have you ever had it where they're switched, where they say last name first, then first name? Sometimes people end up accidentally making errors for that reason. So for that reason, I'd say that this heuristic is satisfied. And so we'll put some O's there just to represent, okay, check. We've got number 1, check. Number 2, check. Okay, number 3, user control and freedom. Users often perform actions by mistake. They need a clearly marked emergency exit to leave the unwanted action. So let's say that an end user is, they hit create a profile. When they open it up, they're like, oh, that wasn't what I wanted to do. Where can they exit from here? Usually a heuristic is that there's some sort of cancel button or an X in the top of the screen. Sure, you can hit back on your browser, but we want it in the context of the UI as well. So for this reason, number 3, I'd say, is not satisfied. So as you all are going through the challenges and you're identifying, hey, I think we're missing something, this will help you identify what it is that you're missing so that you can iterate on them. I recommend as well, you can just do a heuristic evaluation once for the sake of time. In the real world, it takes a few more rounds than that. But for the sake of this, 1 round should be satisfactory. So go through all 10 for each of your screens. Again, it shouldn't take too long, but it'll really help you level up your solution and get 5 out of 5 in that user experience section of the grading rubric. Okay, and then last but not least is delivering a story of transformation during your presentations. So luckily, you all will be learning more tips for your presentations in a dedicated pre-workshop that I think is happening in November. It's pre-workshop 2. But in the meantime, I'd also like to share a few tips on how to frame your presentations around the end user persona that we just discovered and the user experience that we just perfected in the last step. So this step is so important because no matter how much due diligence we do to understand our users and perfect our solutions, what we create will not resonate with users if we don't explain the value to them clearly. You can kind of think as an example, think back on a recent commercial or ad you watched. Of course, they didn't just say, here's a solution, you go figure out what all the capabilities offer and why it matters to you. No, they show their target customer in the ad. They show them using the highlighted features within the solution, and they show how it makes that end user's life easier. And so my understanding is that you all will have about 2 minutes for the introduction of your solution during your presentation. That'll go by really quickly. 2 minutes goes by quickly, but I'm going to show you how you can tell a compelling story in just a fraction of the time that you'll have. So for the sake of time, I am going to actually just populate all of these and walk you through it really quickly. Give me 1 second to unhide the slide, and then I'm going to show it to you here. Okay, so you can see all of this here. This is basically, I wanted to do an ad lib exercise because I used to love ad libs when I was younger. But let's just say, going back to the everyday objects examples, let's pretend that we identified a need for a solution called Quick Cart, totally made up. Here's a one-liner explanation. Quick Cart is your one-stop shopping buddy to help you find items at, and self-checkout. So first we introduce our persona. Meet Nancy. I gave her a name. Nancy is completely made up, but we're pretending she's an ER doctor who regularly shops at her local grocery store between shifts. Obviously, because she's an ER doctor, she has an intense schedule, right? So she needs her shopping trips to be, let's say, fast, productive, stress-free. Next, we have the challenge. Last week, during Nancy's grocery store run, she spent, let's say, an hour at the grocery store because she couldn't find some of her items, and there was also a really long checkout line. Now we switch to the opportunity and the solution. But luckily, Nancy now has insert solution, Quick Cart, to help her quickly and easily find those hard to find occasional items and breeze through checkout without waiting in long lines. Transition to demo. Transitions are always tough. Transition to demo. Let's see now how Nancy is going to use this solution to help her shorten her shopping trip from 1 hour to 15 minutes. So what you can see here, again, this is a very simple example using an everyday, product or experience. But I actually timed myself and going through the process of saying, hey, we're team, insert team name. This is the challenge that we told. And so here's what we're going to be demonstrating. We want to introduce you to Nancy, and then going through this flow took me only a minute. And you all will have 2 minutes for your introductions. That means you can do a little bit more explanation, but hopefully this format will be helpful to all of you. And again, the purpose of doing this is to make sure that the solution that you're demonstrating really is compelling, and you're pulling together the technical aspects, the opportunity, the persona, so that again, you have a really compelling storyline here. So you saw persona that we talked about earlier. What's the challenge? What's the opportunity? Why does it matter to her? And now let's see how it looks. Bonus points if throughout the demo, rather than saying, okay, I'm going to click here, you can click here, talking about the different gears and buttons, you're saying, oh, Nancy is able to do this. Nancy is able to do that. So speak in the point of view of your end user as well, and it will really make your demos land really well. So with that said, this is pretty much the end of my part of the presentation. I have a few more resources in the next slide in a second here, but I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss any questions.
I just want to confirm you're going to be sending me these slide decks so I can share it with everybody.
Absolutely, yeah. I'd love
There's
to.
a lot of good. There's a lot of good content in here. So
Thank you. Yeah, I absolutely will. And then in addition to that, I have my contact information at the end of this slide too. So if at any point anyone has a clarifying question, it's still Saturday morning, but if later in the day you're like, oh, actually I have a question, just contact me. I'll be available for our Slack channel for the hack too. So I will absolutely do that.
the comment I want to make, however, is that last slide was the best slide I've ever seen of how to summarize
Thank you.
and deliver what you've done.
Thank you.
That was very good. And so I want to make sure this slide gets shared with people because even though we have a whole workshop on the topic, everybody does it a little differently. And this is a great way to look at the 4 or 5 slides you need for this portion of the presentation. So thank you for that, Lee.
Oh, it's an honor. Thank you so much for the kind feedback. And yes, I hope that it's helpful. And again, like not just in the hack too, right? In the future as well, as you all are going through your careers and you're building solutions, being able to articulate them in a concise and compelling way is so important. And that's what makes businesses successful in helping get users use the products and be successful. So thank you so much. All right, I don't see any other questions, so I'm going to quickly go to the resources section. I'm someone who's not a fan of long lists, and so you'll see there are not too many items here, but a few to help you all get started. Number one are a couple of books, and these books are ones that a lot of designers, but also developers and other people who are just in product typically use. They are really great for, again, understanding the meaning and importance of design thinking. And so one of them is called The Design of Everyday Things. This is probably the most famous. There's another book called Don't Make Me Think. And this is one that a lot of developers have used in the past, years, and is very popular as well. I mentioned Nielsen Norman Group as one of my absolute must-have resources in my role as a user experience practitioner. Everything that I do, I go to Nielsen Norman for to learn and to have resources. Again, that's where the heuristic evaluation framework came from. So feel free to check out their website. And if you have more questions on the heuristic evaluation, reach out to me, but you can also go onto their website for the heuristic evaluation. It breaks things down so well. So I recommend you do that. And then last but not least, and I think this is a segue into the next section here, but again, IBM offers so many learnings for both early career professionals and seasoned professionals on a variety of different topics. We actually have a series of design thinking badges that you can get. All designers at IBM have done these. They're really great courses. So I've linked this as well. And I recommend that you all check it out after you do the coding challenge for your continued learning. So with that said, since we're still on the topic of badges and IBM Skills Build, I'm going to pass the microphone over to my lovely colleague, Lillian. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name's Lillian Lei. I'm from IBM Corporate Social Responsibility team. I'm a manager managing the relationship between IBM and academia. So I work with across the US with universities and help universities understand how to use IBM Skills Build, which Leah introduced earlier to help the students in learning a variety of skills, mainly on AI, but also on cybersecurity. We also offer the design thinking, various badges that Leah mentioned. And I'm going to show you how to get to those pages from Skills Build. But before that, let me share my deck real quick. And I just have a few minutes.
Okay, you can't yet, just one moment.
Okay, great.
I didn't realize you were going to be sharing a deck, so let
Okay.
me just make it so you can. Okay,
Okay,
you
thank
can,
you.
but Lillian will have to stop sharing hers first. I mean, Leah
Oh.
will have to stop sharing hers first.
Okay,
Okay, now you can.
okay, cool. I show stuff from beginning. Okay. Continue to share. Okay, so IBM is committed to skill 30 million people globally by 2030. And as part of this larger goal, IBM aims to skill 2 million people in AI by 2026. In the latest agreement between IBM and the White House, we are also committing to skill 2 million people in AI in the US by 2028. So it's a little bit different from what I'm showing you right now. On this page, this is all the global goal, the 30 million people, and then the 2 million is global. But this 2 million people by 2028 is in the US on AI. One of the big reasons why we think AI education is so important, whether it's for companies having their employees upskilled on AI, is because the workers' existing skill set will be transformed or become outdated over the next 5 years. And then 87% of executives believe jobs are augmented rather than replaced by AI. Also, 85% of employers plan to prioritize upskilling their workforce. So IBM Skills Build is it's a free online resource for anyone aged 13 and up to learn about artificial intelligence, the cybersecurity, data analytics, and also some other industry value skills like programming, project management, and also design thinking that we were talking about. So around here we talk about skills. I have colleagues that are in my team work with high school educators to help students using the Skills Build platform, and then myself work with academia, faculty and staff to introduce Skills Build to students. So adult learners in IBM clients or local state government, they can also use Skills Build to upskill in these areas that are listed. IBM have a partnership globally to get more users using this technology, learning in this technology. We have over 1,000 classes and counting. Every quarter we add new classes to Skills Build platform. With your university or college email address through Skills Build, students, university faculty, as well as staff can also access IBM Cloud to use some of the IBM Cloud catalog for your education and evaluation purposes. You can build proof of concept solutions like on hackathons, like what we are doing right now. And also you can, through the Skills Build platform, get to the software download. I'm going to show you the website later and navigate to different pages for you to see how to use some of the important resources for free. We also have Skills Build events. We have a monthly tech talk for community college and university students to dial in as a cohort, listen to the latest and greatest technology trends, learn about how to use Skills Build. And also the very most important thing is there for 10 minutes, we have a talent acquisition leader to talk to students about jobs at IBM, how to join the community, about virtual hiring events that IBM hosts from time to time. So it's a great opportunity for community college students, university students to come and ask questions, listen about technology, and also connect with our talent acquisition leaders and also other fellow students around the country, right? Ask questions, listen to answers from IBM experts. So these are also very valuable resources that are free for students. We also have faculty light the fire events once a month as well for university professors to dial in and share about using Skills Build, how to add those classes, Skills Build offering into their curriculum based on the classes. We also, in addition to some self-paced learning to earn certificates, we also have guided learning experiences where students can join a cohort and learn together and then eventually earn a industry recognized certificate. So I'm going to show you the Skills Build website real quick and navigate to multiple pages So you have an idea how the page look like and how to get the resources that I mentioned. So this is our SkillsBuild main page. It's just a skillsbuild.org, and you can see the IBM logo here. And it separate into multiple learners. So for example, if you click on learners, there are high school students, college students, and adult learner pages. They are a little bit different. So I can show you the college student page. It's separate into AI, cybersecurity, data science, and cloud related classes. And in AI specifically, here are some of the example classes. Introduction to Large Language Model, 90 minutes class. You can earn a digital sticker after the learning. Of course, there's going to be a test that you need to pass. It's open book test, unlimited tries, and then you can earn a digital sticker. And then here are other example classes. Build your first chatbot using IBM watsonx in 60 minutes of time. So you can also click on the Dive Deeper tab, which will give you, these are longer learning certificates, multiple learning modules that you can earn a certificate. Getting started with artificial intelligence, 3 hours learning, and earn a Credly certificate. So here are some other examples. You can, feel free to navigate around this page and see what could be interesting to you. So in addition to AI, there are very good cybersecurity material as well. So I'm also going to show you, since we mentioned the design thinking, I will point out to you in the adult learner page, there are, if you click, oops, sorry, here, all learning based on roles. Here, this is all of the related classes that available on SkillsBuild, and here, user experience design. This is where you can find our design.
Lillian, I don't know if you froze or if I froze. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, I think Lillian did freeze actually.
Okay. I'm going to remove the spotlight.
Design thinking experience.
There we go.
Hello, can you
Okay,
still
you're
hear
almost
me?
there.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so I'm so sorry. My computer's running out of battery. So I'm gonna talk through some of the events. So basically in the SkillsBuild website, click on the event page button. That will, let me see if I can still share real quick, because that's quite important. Let me share the page again. So in the event page, this is where the guided learning experience I mentioned can be found. So we release, this page is dynamically loaded. So once a while, as new material come out, you can find some guided learning experience. You can see it's in multiple languages, Spanish, English, and also French and Portuguese. Here, you can also see the tech talk that I mentioned. So the next tech talk is coming up. I think this is the Light the Fire. the Tech Talk is coming up December 10th. I think in November 13th there is a Tech Talk, but it roll out to somewhere else. But if you click here to just register, everyone is welcome to dial into our Tech Talk and connect with other students, connect with IBM experts, as well as connect with our recruiters and hear about the upcoming virtual recruiting events as well as in-person in university recruiting events. So these are all very valuable community events that IBM want to provide to university students, community college students, adult learners, as well as high school students to learn about all of these industry valued skills. I know that my time has passed, so if anyone has any question, please feel free to actually connect with me. I'll put my name and email address on the chat. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, send me email. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Sorry about the glitch earlier.